All right, as we are slowly waiting for people to come in, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Y Council Town Hall hosted by IAB. We're just going to give a few more minutes for people to come in just before I start. Good morning to everyone who's come to join us this morning. My name is Nokolo Mafu, and I am the creative lead at Brand Studio 24. But what's most important is that I'm so excited to welcome you to the first ever Y Council Town Hall webinar. And it's an exciting year that 2020 has been. It's given us lots of challenges and of course impacted our industry in the same way. So, of course, for some people who might not know, the IAB Y Council is a council that aims to increase engagement and participation for youth within the digital marketing industry. And so, of course, it makes complete sense why we're all here together to find out what our peers are thinking and just get the ball rolling on the conversation. As you may know, we've got amazing speakers lined up for you today. We've got an hour to do amazing work, and I think we're going to do so beautifully. So just from a technical perspective, to those of us who are joining us, remember that there will be a Q&A section in the program today. And if you look at the bottom panel on your screen, you will see that there is a Q&A box, which I will be managing as your host. Please feel free to drop your questions there through our speeches and also just through the day so that we can then use those questions and then forward them to our panelists as we go. So I'll have a look at those, and if there's anything that we don't get to, not to worry. I will make sure that those questions are sent to the IAB and that they can filter those answers to you. All right, so I have a very simple job here, is to get the program running as quickly as possible. So I hope that you guys are comfortable, you've got some coffee, you've got a notebook, and are ready to really hear some inspiring words from people who are just doing amazing work within the digital marketing industry. It is an absolute pleasure for me to introduce our first speaker and our keynote speaker for today, and that is Mr. A.B. Mokwatane, who is the Vodacom Managing Executive Brand and Comms. Now, this is someone who is a maverick within the industry. He served as the CEO of Ogilvy South Africa, and during that 6-year tenure, Ogilvy remained the largest marketing services group in South Africa and transformed into a digital-first agency. And they were the most creative agency for 5 years in a row. He is also a triathlete and DJ, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, AB.
Thank you so much, Knox. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for this invitation as well. When I heard that I only had 10 minutes to speak, I was like, wow, that's actually quite amazing. I've never heard anyone say that a speech is too short. So I'm already off to a really good start. But I really appreciate this platform. I heard from Luzuko that the average age of this group was 27. So I decided to speak to my 27-year-old self to try and impart some of the lessons that I've learned in my time since then. I'm 42 years old now. So really, there's 5 things that I would like to share today with yourself and my 27-year-old self. Number 1, stay curious. Number 2, always work harder than you hope. Number 3, make sure that you don't wait until you're ready. Number 5, number 4, stay active. And number 5, be of service. So I'm going to cover kind of those 5 areas in the next 9 minutes that we've got. So really around staying curious is, I find it quite amazing at how passive we are as people in getting the knowledge that we receive. I mean, most people really just accept knowledge that they get in a very passive way. They're not active seekers of knowledge. So I found it quite amazing that actually with just a little bit of effort, you could know more about something than most people. So read, follow the blogs, write the articles, check out the podcasts, do whatever you can in your particular subject of interest to make sure that you understand it in depth, but also broadly. So make sure that you are covering off all the adjacent areas that you could get knowledge around. So I used to read a lot of marketing books. So Al Ries, Adam Morgan, Philip Kotler, then started branching off into management strategy, people like Henry Mintzberg, Porter, Tom Peters. And now I'm just, trying to read as broadly as I can. One of my favorite books at the moment is The 40 Rules of Life by Alif Shafak, which is an amazing story around the transformation of Rumi from being a priest into being the sage that is really going to be spoken about for the rest of our history. So stay curious. It's an amazing time for you as a young person with all the knowledge that you've got and the capacity to get information. This is something that you really need to take advantage of. It's really, really easy to know more about something than most people. Become that polymath. Number 2, stay active. When I left high school, I became much less active than I was. Yes, I've done a couple of triathletes, but that was much later on in my life. When I started working, I worked at SAB in the early time of my career. And we used to go down to the bar every single day to have drinks. And I can tell you now that I have not managed to shake off the weight that I gained in my 20s. And that's usually where your body transforms. And that's what you're going to look like for the rest of your life. So I'm not saying go to gym if gym is not your thing, or start running if running is not your thing. Just find something that you're interested in, something that keeps you active, and do that consistently. It will really stand you in good stead for the rest of your life. The way that you feel about your physique and your fitness gives you a psychological edge in whichever environment that you go. Your mind and your body need to really coexist in order for you to be as fully effective as possible. Number 3, work harder than you hope. I can't overstate this enough. As a young person, you have an amazing capacity to recover. You can party until 7 o'clock in the morning, have a shower, and go and have a full days of work. And no one will know that you even went out until, unless you told them. When you get older, your recovery time takes a little bit longer. And I want you to take advantage of that energy that you've got right now to really do the graft. The trajectory of your career is really managed and set in this phase of your career. So in your mid to late 20s, early 30s, that's really what's going to determine where you're going to be when you turn 40 and towards the latter part of your career. So get to work early. Make sure that you are preparing for all the tasks that you need. There is no task that is too small to not do perfect. You are now going to get a lot of briefs from different people. You're most likely reporting into some sort of a structure. Make sure that you use every single opportunity to really propel yourself and show your excellence. No task is too small. So volunteer for the projects, get to work early, make sure that you're just a step ahead for every single person. I mean, just a simple thing like, there's pre-reads that are sent out before meetings. Nobody reads the pre-read. Be the person that reads the pre-read and is a step ahead in the meeting by the time that happens. So work harder than you hope. Really, really important to me. You can utilize the energy that you've got right now to be able to deliver that for you. This is the right time to do that. The 4th thing is really something that I coach a lot of people, and I'm always asked if they should go and interview for a particular job or apply. And I always say to them, never wait until you're ready. The opportunities that are going to come around in your life are going to present themselves and you're never going to be ready for them. But if you wait until you're ready, it'll be too late because somebody else would have jumped in there. I find that it's a really interesting thing that, if you just have the balls to kind of go out and, make sure that you can take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you, you will learn along the way. You must have confidence in your ability to learn as you go and know that you will rise to the occasion when those opportunities present themselves. If you wait until you're ready, it's going to be too late. In my personal experience, I wasn't ready to leave SAB when I left. It was the era of BEE deals, and we borrowed some money, we put our houses on the market, and we bought a stake in VWV. When I got to VWV, it was one of the big experiential agencies in the country. I wasn't ready to be the CEO, but I did it, and I could deliver that job as I learned along the way, and we produced the opening and closing ceremonies of the World Cup. That is not something that we would have anticipated when we started. I certainly wasn't ready to be the CEO of Ogilvy and Mather. I mean, I worked in really the antithesis of the industry, coming in from an experiential background to go and run really what is one of the gold standards of marketing services in this country. I definitely wasn't ready to do that. So my advice to my 27-year-old self is when those opportunities knock at your door, open and let them in and run hard at them. Again, your trajectory is set in this next couple of years. Finally, be of service. I think it's never too early to be of service to your community, to your school, to your work, to your country. Find that purpose that is bigger than yourself, that drives you, and make sure that you can apply yourself to being of service and help. There are 50% of people your age don't have work at the moment. There are people who are needing a leg up, whether it's at work or it's in other environments. Use this opportunity of life to help other people. When you help, the universe pays you back generously. I've had the wonderful opportunity at the moment to be able to start a bursary. And my bursary in association with a AAA school is we're looking for the next Black female marketing protege. The bursary covers full fees, accommodation, books. Literally all the person has to do is arrive and make sure that she can complete her degree. Personally, I believe that my contribution to society, to the world, is around helping people understand and leverage their own leadership capability that sits within them. Every one of us has leadership capability. You just need to be able to believe in it and act on it. And I genuinely believe that if we can unlock the leadership potential that exists in women in our society, we will really move forward. So I commit myself to really finding opportunities where we can empower women as a cornerstone of society. And that's really going to be driving the things that I'm going to do. My bursary only covers one student. That's all I can afford for now. But I'm going to try and get other people to kind of chip in. And let's see how many students we can eventually get through there. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to. So in a nutshell, stay curious, make sure that you stay active, work harder than you hope, don't wait until you're ready, and be of service. That's my 10 minutes. I want to wish you all a fantastic Friday, and may the odds forever be in your favor. Thank you.
Thank you so, so much, AB. That was truly, truly inspiring and just such great nuggets for all of us to leave with as we kind of tackle through our careers and our industries. It's just such amazing words to sit with. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And for those who are coming in, I'd love to welcome you once again to the Y Council's Town Hall, which is actually the first, which is hosted by IAB. And now we are moving on to our second speaker, who goes by the name of Luzuko Tena. Now, Luzuko is a paid social executive at Get Smarter, a brand of 2C Inc., which is the leading global education technology company with partners, university partners around the globe. But of course, he is also the IAB Youth Council lead, and we'll be sharing a little bit more about what they are up to.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the wonderful introduction, Max. And thanks to AB as well for kicking things off for us. I think as a young person, I'm sure I speak for myself and everyone else on this call in saying that we're constantly on the lookout for information to help us in our personal journeys, but I think also to affirm some of the decisions that we make. And I think what the 5 points that AB has mentioned today certainly fulfill both of the points that I've made. So we do thank you very much for that, AB. Good morning to everyone. I hope you're all doing well and keeping safe, especially as we near the end of what's been a very interesting year. Now, as mentioned, my name is Luzuko Tena. I lead the IABSA Youth Action Council. And today I'll be sharing a bit more on that, on this wonderful team rather, how it came about, who we are, what we've been up to, and how the future looks. Now you're probably asking yourself what this picture has to do with the industry or even our council. And to be honest, it has quite a bit. There's quite a lot going on in this picture, and you can interpret it in many ways. For now, however, I'd like to ask everyone here to do 3 things. The first thing, don't look into it too much. The second thing, literally see it for what it is. And the third thing, keep it on top of mind throughout this entire presentation. Now, after having various conversations with peers of mine, both on agency and brand side, one thing that occurred to me is that we share the same frustrations. Now, these frustrations mainly coming from a need to be heard as young people within the industry, but also frustrations coming from wanting to do more. Now, what Paula thought was a coffee catch-up just over a year ago ended in me shooting a very ambitious shot by not only voicing these frustrations and this awkward stage that we find ourselves in our career, but also pitching the idea of a millennial board. Now, this ended up being the first of many planning sessions on what we come to know as today as being the Y Council. Now, before getting into what the Youth Action Council is all about, I do think it's important to briefly touch on who we are. So the Y Council is made up of 12 young industry leaders between the ages of 24 and 30. We represent a range of companies and skills, but more importantly, underrepresented groups in industry leadership structures, with 60% of our group being women and 92% of it identifying themselves as either Black and or persons of color. Now, each seat in this council seeks to represent a function of the digital marketing ecosystem, from planning, account management, strategy, and creative on agency and brand side. Now, as a council, our overall vision is to increase, as Knox mentioned earlier on, is to increase under 30s engagement and active participation within the industry. Now, this is in line with the IAB's overall vision of empowering the media and marketing industries to thrive in a digital economy with a strong focus on education and transformation in South Africa. Now, as a team, we all share a common goal of wanting to see the youth within the industry matter and be given platforms to learn, shine, and grow every month of the year, not just in June. Now, this is why having this council means so much, because as much as we wanted a seat at the table, we also wanted our own table. And thankfully, the IAB has provided. Now, does this mean that the IAB has a youth league? Not at all. However, quite similar to the other councils within the IAB, we're a standalone entity with representation on the IAB Manco. And essentially what that means is that when things need votes, maybe for like seats on boards and whatnot, the Youth Action Council have voting power as well in those decisions. Now, however, being a group made up of a young and a new generation of leaders, there are some qualities of the Youth League which we do have. Some of these qualities are the 3 themes which I'll quickly touch on today and help to describe our role, not only within the IAB, but also the broader industry. These 3 themes are accountability, assurance, and ownership. Now, overall transformation is something that has been a hot topic of discussion for a very long time. It has also been a topic of conversation many times. And to be honest, that's what it's become best known as, just the topic of discussion. Now, change is a very difficult thing to come by if there's no accountability. And as a council, one of the things we're responsible for is being that added layer of accountability within the IAB and the various heads of member companies within the Bureau. Now, we also recognize as a group that as much as we're there to hold the top accountable, we're also going to be held accountable by our peers on how we use this platform, which is why platform of engagement for us is such a huge focus. And it's probably why we're even here today. Now, the second thing I want to touch on is assurance. Now, many assumptions are often made on the ability of young people when it comes to them being leaders. Now, one may even go as far as to argue that it's the reason as to why there's an unspoken tension between the older half of millennials and the younger ones. Now, we hope the formation of this council will act as a catalyst for widespread change in thoughts and behaviors with regards to diversity and inclusion and how it's looked at. Now, getting that assurance for us and other groups to follow lies heavily on us as a team, excelling in doing what we need to do, and with regards to shifting the needle. Now, essentially, what this means is we're going to have to do a bit more than be the generation which is known for our great ability to call things out. Lastly, and certainly not least, and I think one of the most important things with regards to diversity, inclusion, and transformation is ownership. Now, platforms such as this council of ours are pointless if they're not done with the intent of giving some sort of ownership and or a stake in the pie to the groups in question. Now, this is where the conversation of having a seat at the table versus having your own table comes in. Now, with this council, we've taken the approach of both, where we operate as a standalone, as mentioned, and also have seats on other councils as committees too. Now, ownership means that these seats that young people occupy at the table are ones with power and influence, are not voiceless, and are not just there for optics. For us, that's through the collaboration with other councils, and ultimately us being a feeder of some sort to the wider IAB ecosystem, and to make sure that those being developed are being kept in to serve the industry in various forms and functions. Now, we're a group of highly motivated, ambitious, and opinionated individuals. But from day one, we were very open and humble, but also wanting to learn from those who had been on the journey we were about to embark on. It is therefore very important for us, or to us as a council rather, that before we could do anything, we had to build a solid foundation to work off. And how we saw that as being is making sure that the council worked internally for the IAB, but also that it worked for the members of the council themselves. Now, we're able to build an internal accountability structure based off what the members had said they'd like to achieve on being part of this group, what they said they had to give the IAB, and also off some one-on-one conversations that I had with each member of the council at the beginning. Luckily, our overzealousness has been received well so far, and all members of the council have been involved in various stages of projects, events, councils as shadow members, and even 2 of our members are now part of the newly formed Future of Measurement Committee, as well as the Digital Content Marketing Committee. And through this, our team has gained valuable knowledge and insights, as well as a lot of confidence. Now, as we wrap up 2020 and look forward to 2021, we've now been looking at how we want to make this council work for the youth in our industry. Now, this is not to say that we're at a stage where we're ready to revolutionize and cause an uprising in the industry, but rather we're at a stage where we'd like to stretch out the access that we've received to our peers. Now, it's one of the reasons why we're here today. We're currently finalizing plans for 2 very exciting projects we'd like to launch in the new year, namely Industry Bites, as well as Future Masters. Now, these 2 projects are content-driven projects, with one focusing on engagement and debate, while the other has a strong focus on education and really ubuntu amongst young people. We do hope to share a bit more on these very soon. Now, our biggest asset as humans, but more so as young people, is our time. And often when we trade it, we do so for the benefit for our own benefit or to empower others. Now, I'm the type of Afro-optimist who believes that millennials on this continent, let alone this country, are eager to get involved in purposeful things that make this place we call home a better one to live, work, and exist in. Now, our Mentor Month initiative, which we're currently running now, is one example of how, as a team, we've traded this valuable asset of ours to try and help and shape the ad and marketing industries in a way that benefits those we deem as beneficiaries of our utopia. For us, those beneficiaries are young people and the various identified identities we have that intersect with that. Now, through this initiative, each member of the council is offering 30-minute mentorship sessions to young people starting out in the industry and who would typically fall in what we call here in the IAB as front rowers. To find out more on this, please feel free to reach out to me or any members of our council. Now, for someone who achieved so much in a professional career that spanned 19 years and included 2 retirements, the moments that led up to this shot are described as the best critical game performance of all time. A 19-year career summed up in 1-minute sequence of plays. And it was because of Michael Jordan and how he took things into his own hands. Now, the legacy of the Chicago Bulls team is synonymous with the one of Michael Jordan. And if anyone was going to write another chapter in his book, it was going to be him. Now, Michael Jordan himself, when speaking on this moment and its build-up, speaks on how he knew what he wanted to do. It was just a matter of timing. 6 seconds longer and things could have been slightly different. So what does this image have in common with the Y Council? Well, if anything, the youth in South Africa, particularly in media and marketing, are aware of the struggles of this industry with regards to transformation. And guess what? They do have solutions. It's taken the elevator some time coming down, and to a certain extent, it's still on its way. Now, we've decided to take the stairs because we can't wait any longer, particularly with a generation well on its way into the industry, which is a lot less patient than us. Now, the IAB has provided the platform, and we're forever thankful for it. Here's to an even productive and collaborative 2021, where we really hope to extend this group the opportunity and the access that we've been given through various projects that we'll be working on. Things won't happen unless we all work together. Hello, Mazwi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luzuko. I mean, I think it's so inspiring to kind of understand the purpose and what drives this council to really kind of take the industry by the reins. And I think, you know, with access and resources, as AB mentioned, you know, with his bursary, all of these things come together to really create a dynamic and, you know, engaged industry. So I'm super excited to hear about that. And I think it is no better time than to start our Q&A. And so I would like to introduce to you guys the members of the Q&A. Luzuko's already got his camera on and we've heard from him. I would like Amy to please switch on her camera and give us a quick introduction of who she is and what she does.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Hurl-Hill, and I'm a digital portfolio manager at Arena Holdings. I am responsible for sales within our digital advertising team, and I'm also a member of the IAB Youth Action Council.
Thank you so much, Amy. And Nomaswazi, if you could give us your time, please.
Hello, everyone. I am Nomaswazi, and I am a senior strategist at MNC Saatchi Abel Johannesburg.
Fantastic. Now, you may have seen on the program, for those of you who are joining us today, that Salai was supposed to join us today, but unfortunately, due to the demands of the job, which I think we can all understand, she was unable to join us because of a pitch, which we completely understand. So I will be taking over her place. And for those of you who are new, my name is Noxolo Mafu, and I currently work as the creative lead at Brand Studio 24. And Luzuko will also be on the panel, and we've heard from him. I don't know if you just want to do a quick refresher, Luzuko, just to tell them what you're up to.
Morning, everyone. As mentioned earlier on, my name is Luzuko Tena. I'm a paid social executive at Get Smarter, as well as I have the pleasure of leading the IAB Youth Action Council.
Fantastic. Now, I really would love for the people who have joined here today to really take this time to pop some questions in the Q&A box. I will filter through those questions and we can definitely send them through to the people. Maybe you want specific questions for a particular panelist or speaker. This is really the time to get that engagement going and to do so in a safe and comfortable way. So I'm going to start off with the first question to my panelists. And just to kind of kick off, in your own experience, is mentoring something that's needed?
I think that mentorship is greatly needed. And I think it's not only for people who are starting out within their careers, but I think that mentorship should be something that you pursue as a lifelong sort of journey, just to help you and guide you as you go through the different stages in life and in your career.
Nomasozi, would you like to go?
Yes, I definitely think mentorship is important and extremely necessary. I think in life, as you navigate, especially in your professional space, it's important to always know that you can ask for help. Someone who can help keep you accountable, someone who can continuously challenge you, and someone who can put you on and, you know, mention your name in the important rooms. So I definitely think mentorship is extremely important.
Yeah, I think very similar to everyone else. I think mentorship is very important. I think, like, in thinking of mentorship as a whole, I love hip hop music, and there's a J. Cole line which pretty much I think sums up the role of mentorship, and it basically goes as follows. It says, the good news is you've come a long way, the bad news is you've gone the wrong way. And I think it kind of sums up the role of mentorship in the sense that it's a nice thing to have in terms of guidance, because I think we all have the ability as young people to climb up the corporate ladder. But the worst thing and the one thing that you don't want is getting to the top of that ladder and kind of finding out that you had it leaned against the wrong building. And I think what mentorship does is kind of help you to guide you with regards to making the right decisions, to make sure that in your journey and in your growth, you're constantly doing what works best for you.
Mm. I mean, I have to agree, Luzuko. I think a lot of what's contributed to my personal growth within, you know, the industry is really leaning on women, particularly also who've just like taken the lead and showing me the way to go. Because I think a lot of the time our industries can look like a huge myriad of information and you don't really know how your path is meant to go. So really to speak to people who are close to you is a great idea. So Amy, just before we get to your question, we have a question from Nelly Maduna. Thank you so much. And I think this would be directed to AB. And the question is, what are the criteria for the marketing bursary that you mentioned earlier? So I'll just give AB some time to quickly switch on his mic. Thank you.
Okay. Sure. So we're obviously looking for someone that needs the financial assistance. So you and your family should not be in a position where this is a qualification that you can afford. And in particular, I'm also looking for people who are from the outside of the centers. So I'm really looking for people from Thohoyandou, Dar, Springbok, who are not in the commercial centers, because I think there are a lot of people outside of the centers who don't really understand or don't have the opportunities to get into this industry. And we're losing a lot of character by not having that input in the industry. And then if you just go into my Twitter handle, all the criteria in terms of what you have to do is available on there, and it's AB Mokwazani. On Twitter, you can just find it. It's my pinned tweet. So all the information is there.
Thank you so much. And hopefully most people will be running over to your Twitter to just see what it is that they can relate to, or maybe just share it to people who you might think would need it. And I'm sure there are so many more people who are actually on this platform who needs it. I'm going to go to a question that was submitted by Upalesa Kokela. Thank you so much. And this is specifically for Nomaswazi, saying, what are the key things one should consider when selecting or seeking a mentor?
Thank you, Palisa, for your question. I think it's pretty important to look for very specific and deliberate characteristics when you are looking to select your mentor. So someone who in the space that you're looking to progress in, who shares the same values as you do, and someone who has done a significant amount of things in that particular industry that you believe are very aligned with the path that you want to take. And I think in selecting your mentor, we also need to be quite flexible, but also quite open-minded. I think it's we often tend to fall into this notion of, well, I'm female and I'm a Black female, and I'll only be looking for Knox because she's the only person I see. I think representation is extremely important, but I think we need to diversify when it comes to mentorship, and also be flexible, because the current times will also are in. Mentorship has changed and has evolved. And it's quite important to know that you can find a mentor from someone who you follow on Twitter, whose ideals you necessarily agree with, and whose thinking you're aligned with. You can find a mentor anywhere really, and it's not as boxed as it used to be. So I think definitely someone whose trajectory really resembles where you want to go, and whose journey really is reflective of the person that you want to become as well in the industry.
Thank you so much, Nomaswazi. I think that's an excellent point here. I've got a note here from someone from Utseho Fatso, who's obviously speaking on this mentorship idea again, and this is not necessarily for you to handle, Nomaswazi. I'm actually opening it up to the full panel. Is, they say mentorship is dope, but do you think our industry has enough community values that people feel safe to reach out and foster relationships that enhance their careers? And if not, how can we break down these walls so we can access it easily?
I definitely don't think that we have that within the industry. I think that, in many regards, as much as our industry is transforming and evolving, there are still some ideals that are very sort of stuck in the past, and people are afraid to speak up and ask for help or ask for assistance. And I think, that's where the Mentorship Month program that the IAB Youth Action Council has brought in has been a wonderful way to actually do that, to engage with people, to say, here's a safe space so that you can talk to people who are of similar age to you, who are busy going through their careers and their journeys and have gone through various different challenges in many different ways. All of us have a different story, a different background. And so by us having a voice to be able to get out there and offer that assistance to people, hopefully we will be able to create that change that this industry actually needs.
Thank you so much, Amy. I mean, the questions are coming in and I'm actually super, super excited. So thank you to everyone who is putting through the questions. My panelists are going to be kept on their feet. I love this comment from Usnondando. Yes, saying that many brands or clients are tone deaf when it comes to cultural consciousness and what language to use in campaigns. So how do we navigate these conversations with clients and ensure our voices are heard as young people who are on the ground on what's actually going on culturally? I think maybe I'll even just start off because I think I'm so passionate about this idea and this conversation. And it's a very tricky conversation and a hard thing to work through, especially in the beginning of your career, because I think in a lot of the times you might feel that your voice is not, big enough, or you don't have the right title to be able to bring things up that yourself are just either they're going to blow up, or it'll just speak badly to the audience that you're trying to target and trying to ascertain value from. And I think a lot of what's helped me kind of get over that is finding an ally, even in the team, who might actually have a bigger voice than me in that time. Now, I know the reality is a lot of these spaces aren't set up in the most, comfortable way, but even just to speak to someone that, knowing what you know of this community, this won't work, or these are the suggestions that I have. Sometimes it's also just to step up in a way that obviously would be appropriate for the space. And I'm not saying we can always toe the line, but I find that finding an ally, even someone who's just closer in terms of the line of approvals and stuff, can really help in doing that. But also it is about the brand that you're working for or the company that you work for. Do they listen to the voices of everyone? Do they trust the voices of the people that they hire? And of course, that is sometimes a long thing to navigate. And I'm not sure what my panelists also feel in this regard.
think I absolutely agree with your take on it, Nokolo, because I think it's such a tricky one and an ongoing one. And I guess a fight that we almost have to accept that will be part of us for a very, very long time. But I think for me, actually, I believe, and I don't think, for me, the most important thing is that you need to be very deliberate in terms of the brands you want to align yourself to and the companies or the organizations in which you are wanting to work for. I think gone are the days where you're just, jumping into any opportunity because it's there. But we need to really start being quite deliberate about, what we associate ourselves with when it comes from a brand perspective and from, an agency perspective or a company perspective. Because what that does is that it sets you apart and also just makes you quite conscious of the decisions that you make on a daily basis. But I think the one thing that we will continue to hear and will continue to say, and that we should probably as well continue to do, is to speak up. Often your voice will shake and often you'll be afraid. A lot of rooms are not welcoming, and sometimes you don't even have the ally that you speak of, but speak up. And I'm saying this as someone who's worked a couple of years in the industry. I continue to speak up. Some days my voice shakes, some days I hold back, but it's a continuous journey. It's a wanting to do better, a wanting to make sure that we keep the dignity of our audiences and we communicate to people in languages that they understand, and we speak to the heart of our consumers and our audiences. So speak up, speak up.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And if my panelists are comfortable for me to move on to the next question, I will do so. Heads up. There we go. Perfect. So we've got a question from Nicole saying, hey guys, do you feel the industry will be attractive to the youth in the future? Are we working hard enough to change and evolve with the times?
I can answer that because I think, and I'll answer it because I've kind of, in my short time in the industry, I've had kind of experience both on sort of more brand side as well as on agency side. And I think to Nicole's point, I think one of the reasons as to why even the importance of having something like this council was something that we were really pushing on, was because we didn't see the industry as being something, or at least I didn't see for myself, or maybe for people that I hold dear to myself, as something like that people can kind of aspire to, and all of that. And I like to say, like, we're an industry that's very good at transforming other businesses and putting together sort of certain steps for other businesses to kind of improve their processes and to be better and to do better. But with regards to kind of how we kind of apply those things in our own companies, there is a bit of a lag. And I think the only thing that it really takes is very similar to what's been said before, is people speaking up about these differences, because the one thing that people will use constantly as an excuse is that they didn't know because no one is speaking about it. And I think that's one of the things we kind of really need to always stamp on, is constantly speaking on what we see is not right, and also kind of praising the stuff that we see is right, is going right as well. Because when Gen Zs come into this industry, they're going to be looking at us, and they won't be looking at the people older than us who are in power now. They can be looking at us and saying, well, what did we do in the time that we were here? So I really do think, like, every opportunity that we do have, we really do need to kind of speak up and do so in I guess in a well-packaged way that doesn't hurt anyone. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Luzuko. Now, I have a question from James Durant, thank you so much, who said, as young South Africans, what is your view on the bigger picture and wanting to compete on a larger international stage? Africa. And I think this is for Africa, or maybe within the African continent. Hopefully I'm understanding that phrasing correctly.
Look, I think at the end of the day, within South Africa and the African continent at large, we are still behind in terms of developments when you look at, America and Europe and all of that sort of thing. But I do think that we are progressing and, we are getting there. And I think that the momentum is starting to really grow and we're getting there at a faster rate than what we initially thought that we were. And I also think it's one of those things that we need to change our mindsets and we need to stop thinking of ourselves as, lagging behind all the time and actually starting to be innovative ourselves and go, how can other countries look at us and how can we inspire them in the changes that we are making within the industry on a global scale?
Absolutely, Amy. I have to agree that, I think there's a lot of things that we are doing right. There's a lot of the kind of content coming out of the continent and South Africa, with some leading creatives at it, really making the mark. And so I think to really firstly, see the wealth of knowledge. I mean, we've just had awards kind of rolling out this week. There are such amazing people doing incredible stuff. And I think that just maybe the platforms aren't there to maybe put it all on the world stage, but it's also a great time to recognize that our industry has created such amazing work and is still on the journey to do a whole lot more. Now, Nosipo has a question which I think is super interesting. Thank you, Nosipo Maseka, for your question. And that is, how will youngsters in our industry navigate the new normal of working from home? How do you put yourself out there without being physically able to connect with playmakers in our company? Now, before I open this up to our panelists, I just want to say that I completely understand where you're coming from, Nosipa. I started a new job at home, working from home, which has been such an interesting kind of dynamic to learn about your business, to learn about the synergy of your company away from the people who make it happen, And I think that there's been a lot of learning, I think, from all of us to look at our industries to say, how do we then pursue that connection? How do we pursue personal connection? And for me, to try get closer to my team members and try to really build a synergy, not only with my job, but the people who do it, is to really go out there and ask them on a date, ask them to if we could work together in a co-working space and stuff. And it feels a bit arbitrary, but I think what the youngsters will start to realize is that you have to step out and your fate and your kind of mark in any team, in any work kind of system is up to you to kind of be, at the front force of. And so it is to pursue people, it is to set up times where you can get feedback, work out workshops and find out how you can upskill yourself. But of course, I do think that they are missing out. And if this is our new normal, they are missing out on obviously a very important part of growing in any company. And is that just to have that tactile time. I don't know how everyone else feels.
I think I definitely share those sentiments. It's been a very interesting time, but I think they're in such a beautiful position because they almost get to begin anew or start afresh. I absolutely think the time we're in now, the onus is on you. It's more so on your part to ensure that you are indispensable, even though we're not physically in the office, and that people feel that you are dependable and that your loyalty shines through, even though we're on Teams or Zoom. And I think it's a very important time, but I think it's a very beautiful time as well, because they get to start, we need to reimagine it, all of it. We need to be flexible about it, and also be quite creative about it, which is beautiful, because I think a lot of the time in our industry, we are the creative industry, and Luzuko mentioned it and I nodded, because we are constantly creating for brands. We are constantly being of creative counsel to a lot of brands, but we don't really do it for ourselves. And I think this period that we're in, or this period that we're transitioning into, almost forces us or propels us to start being quite creative and flexible about our ways of working, start being flexible about our hours, about what a team looks like, what a team should entail, who a team should entail, what timelines look like, what working from home, should be. So it's definitely a beautiful time, and I think we should see it rather as an opportunity to start anew, to reimagine it, to create. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Nomaswazi. Now, as we slowly, I'm looking at the clock, we're slowly come. Oh,
Sorry for that. Can I
yes,
quickly add something quickly?
yes.
Sorry for that. Zoom etiquette, I suck at it. But I just wanted to say, I think this entire time, with regards to kind of lockdown and what's happened during this time, the resurgence of many movements has, I think, given a lot of people a voice. And in that, well, at least you'd hope for, has also kind of like opened a lot of people's minds up a lot, and with regards to kind of things changing and just being a lot more like less iffy about stuff. And I think being someone who might be starting at a new company or starting sort of getting into the working world in general during this time, I think there's never been a better time to kind of shine as someone who's different, because everyone is kind of looking for that. The world is in a space now where a lot of the stuff that we've been doing for the last few years, decades, or even centuries, are being kind of seen and called out as being tried and tested stuff. So for people starting out during this time, like if there's one thing that you really need to do is embrace yourself being different.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Luzuko. And, you know, I'm looking at the time and we're slowly heading to the end of our session, but I think there's some amazing points here that have been asked. And this is a question from Danny, who says to the panel, and I'd love to open this up to you guys. What are your friends, families, or peers' attitudes towards the industry that you're in? Do they still see it as an impactful and valuable or inspirational space to be in?
I think from my side, you know, my circle looks at it and it's a very interesting industry to be in. My sister and I are both in media. And I think because I'm so passionate about it, I like to go out there and educate people in terms of what it is that our industry actually does. And, you know, if they've got any preconceived notions or stereotypes, to break down those stereotypes and to actually have a conversation around what it is that we do. And, you know, when there are negative comments about certain things that happen, it's to actually have a conversation around that and to go, okay, you're entitled to feel that way and have an opinion, but let me actually give you some advice and perspective from an angle with being within the media industry.
Would anyone else like to add?
Well, I have the type of parents who don't know what I do. They kind of just have that their son has a job. So they don't really have thoughts, I guess, on it. But I think with regards to peers and friends, it's a very tricky one because obviously I work in the paid media space, but also work for a company that kind of does online learning. So with regards to kind of the media side of me, things can be tense from time to time because obviously in my group of friends, I tend to become the go-to person for any platform change that happens on an Instagram, as if it's my fault, for any platform change that happens like on a Twitter with the fleets and stuff. But also for just stuff with regards to kind of the stuff that we've been hearing a lot with regards to data transparency and all of that, and just how dark it is in the media space right now. But I think on the online learning side, there's a lot of positive talk because I think people are seeing the value in what we kind of do or what I do for a living, and the fact that we're trying to make things easier for people. And I think we're one of few companies that have kind of benefited a lot during this COVID time, simply because people have had to change the way that they now learn and are now looking at companies like us.
Okay, great. And now I'm going to make this close to our last question. And this is from Anita Miembezi. Thank you so much. Saying, and this is for all of us. So I'd like for each of my panelists to give this a think. And I will just hotspot each of you to answer this question. And the last one is, what is the greatest change you would like to see in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you feel the evolution where do you feel, sorry, Nomaswazi, where do you feel the evolution needs to happen the most? So I will start off with Nomaswazi. Are you good to go?
I think so. Thank you for your question, Anita. I think anyone that knows me and has seen my many Twitter rants or any of my shares on LinkedIn, I'm very, very passionate about the development of women in our industry. There's not nearly enough women who are sitting at the top, very far from reaching the targets that we should be reaching. So definitely I see the transformation of our industry moving towards that. There's an added layer that I truly appreciate from a leader that comes, from a woman. It's quite innate in us as women, and that's empathy. And I think we lack quite a lot of that in our industry. And I think, to solve that great thing, also just speaking to our earlier points around mentorship, we definitely need to see more women in boardrooms, more women sitting at executive level, more women being chairs, more women navigating spaces. I think I'm a strategist, but I speak on behalf of every Black female creative in our industry. There's not enough CDs that are reviewing work. If a script is in isiZulu, I have no one who understands what, Izolo means. And I constantly have to be explaining myself. So we definitely need representation is important. And I'm going to be quite specific and say, Black female leadership is critical in our industry. We speak of transformation, we speak of diversity. Not nearly enough work has been done. Literally just like, tipping at it. And I think we need to be quite aggressive. I often say, when it comes to anything that affects us globally, we normally label it a pandemic. And I think it is a pandemic in our industry. We definitely need more women. I need to see more Afros in the boardroom. I need to have, when it's tea time, I need to be chatting to more women about where I can get my brows done. I need to see people like me. I need to talk to people like me, present to people like me, fight out ideas with people like me. So definitely a long way to go, but where I see us transforming and where I see us starting to create very diverse work, diverse thinking, and also starting to see us represented even in our output from if I'm talking about a TVC, I never really see women doing very important and strong roles. It's always in the kitchen. It's always mommy with an apron. We need to change, time's almost, I often say, we often say, no, we need to change, we need to move, but time's up. I think time's up and real action needs to start taking shape when it comes to that.
Amazing, Namasazi. I mean, I think it's so important. Just to add on your point, I think I've also just realized, obviously, the development of women is so important. I was speaking to a peer, I guess, who was in advertising, and she just was like telling me about her team, and she kept referring to guys. And I was like, is it still, there's always been this thing that it's a boys' club, and you start to imagine like, all these stats, these high-end stats that we're getting suggest that the picture is different, but the lived experience that we're seeing is very different. And I think a lot of the changes I want to see, to answer the question that was put to us, is that what are the plans? You can say that you wanted to have transformation, but like when I interview for things now, I will ask, what is the development plan for young Black women, for young women? Because I think to speak on it is one thing, and it's quite easy to put out a press release to say, we heard what you said and we'll get to it. But genuinely is to ask, like, what are the plans? If I'm 2 years in, how are you going to cultivate my skills? Who are the mentors or kind of systems of support that are available in a company? And you'll find that once you actually ask those like real direct questions, you'll start to see who's been doing the work and is not. So I'd love to see that happen across the board, and that, it's not just talking heads, but the work is being done, reviewed, and fed back to the people who need it the most. So that's the kind of thing I'd like to see. To the rest of the panelists.
Sure. I feel like I don't know how to make this question even better after your wonderful responses there. But to both of your points, I agree 100%. And I definitely think, I, especially within the last year, have come to realize that actually I'm such a feminist, and I'm trying to fight for, women of all ages, all race, because I think I've realized within this industry, there is a huge problem. And, I've just looked at my own journey and what I've had to go through. And I don't want someone else to have to go through that who's entering the industry and for many years to come, not only about, people only entering the industry now. And I think, in saying that, we all need to have a voice and we need to fight for that change. And, it's all fair and well to have these panel discussions, but like you say, what are we going to do about it? Well, let's make sure that we continue knocking at that door until that door is opened and that we are not leaving things unsaid.
Yeah, and I think from my side, just to kind of wrap up, I think I definitely agree with what's been said so far. But I think also it really just comes down to kind of, I think care and purpose are going to be stuff that's probably going to spearhead the evolution of this industry, and care and purpose in the sense that I think a lot of the things that have been done in the industry so far with regards to transformation and whatnot have kind of seemed like it's been done as reactions, especially like looking from an agency side. They've been done as reaction to a client complaining about something or a client seeing something. And it doesn't necessarily come from sort of a genuine place. And it's done as I guess as a means of having something nice to report on. And I think moving forward, particularly with what's happened during this pandemic and what's like everything that people have lost, I think people have become a lot more sensitive to stuff. And I think care in general is just going to be something that's going to kind of spearhead the change in this industry. But also kind of looking at, we always speak about our consumers looking for brands that have a purpose and whatnot. And I think people that are applying for jobs, to your point, Knox, people that are applying for jobs are also going to ask sort of the company that they're applying to, like what the purpose of this like company is, and is it a company that kind of like strive to do great things as opposed to kind of take a certain or make an X amount of money. So I think really in the future, and care and purpose are going to be stuff that's going to be really big. And I think common sense is probably going to become a lot more common as well. And I think with these three things, they'll really kind of help to solve a lot of the problems and stuff that Nomaswazi, yourself, Knox, as well as Amy have mentioned as well. But it's a long way to go.
Thank you so much, Luzuko. Thank you to all of my panelists for sharing and spending so much time giving of your knowledge. And there are so many more questions that, you know, were in the Q&A box, particularly from people who want to know, from strategists and stuff. So what I will do is I'll make sure that we connect all those questions to the relevant person and that we can have those answered, because I think the community that we are building here, it's very important for us to keep on doing that. And I'm so excited to see more of that happen. So I'd like to wrap up because it is 12 o'clock and I know time is a very precious thing for most people in this call. So thank you very, very much for all coming through today. It has been such an engaging process, and I think that we are only at the tip of the iceberg of what's to happen. And to just know that all of you are in different parts of the industry and are feeling the need to be present in moments like this, and to do so in a way that's engaging gives me hope. And I hope that we can, you know, keep the momentum going. Now, for people who enjoyed something like this and want to be in on the next event, the IAB is having their Insight event series, which is basically the 2021 predictions. And that'll be a webinar on the 26th of November. So you can just log on to their website to kind of register for that and get all the information. There is also a link that is probably going to be dropped in our chat, so you can follow on with that, but more details will be on the social media platforms. So check out the IAB, always coming through with amazing events to upskill ourselves and also bring that sense of community. And also this will be an opportunity for us to hear the timeline for the Bookmark Awards next year, which of course is a very exciting and important thing for us all. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me and joining this amazing team. My name is Noxolo Mafu, and I hope to see you guys on socials. You can catch me on Nox_Mafu. Let's stay connected, let's engage, and thank you to our keynote speaker, AB, and to Paula and our technical team. Today has been beautiful. Have a good one.